place, but we have not heard on the exact details of how many people still need to be evacuated. But again, the rain has stopped at this point, which is a good sign, hopefully, for the outcome of this situation. But for now, we'll send it back to you guys.
Zach. Want to check in, obviously, up in the Kerrville area now. Rania Kaur has been up there the last couple of days. She is in Kerrville with us now, and we're still waiting on that press conference from Kerr County judge, the mayor. We saw Governor Abbott briefly, Senator John Cornyn. We're told Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem is up there as well. We heard from Congressman Chip Roy earlier this morning, and he had said he had already spoken to President Trump. He had also spoken to Secretary Noem as well, and was trying to describe the situation to them, what possibly was going on. He had said before he could even get everything out, told him that they would get federal help headed this way as soon as they could. Let's go to Rania Kaur now in Kerrville. And Rania, what is the latest up there?
Yes, Barry, I spoke actually with Kerrville Police Department not too long ago. They tell me they're, of course, continuing the search and rescue efforts here along the Guadalupe River. They're concentrating southwest from Hunt all the way to Center Point. It's about a 17-meter area, and I don't know if you can hear that, but we have seen the Department of Public Safety helicopter just circling this area looking for anybody they can find. We do know that the majority of the rescue efforts, though, are happening by foot. In fact, several teams have been split off, consisting of the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Game Warden, Texas Task Force 1, and along with local law enforcement, all just split across this area looking for whoever they can find. Now, I asked Kerrville Police Department if this is still a rescue operation or at this point if there are even survivors, because we're now 24 hours past the deadly floods. And Kerrville Police Department tells me the message today is to have hope, because they tell me they've seen people survive catastrophic and other unfortunate deadly incidents. So they're looking for survivors still, even this late after the deadly floods. We know one dedicated team is in the area of Camp Mystic, where crews are searching for the last 27 girls that are still missing. Again, I don't know if you can hear that right now, but that's the Texas Department of Public Safety helicopter looking in the air. It's a little hard to see with the cloud cover, which we did hear from early this morning was going to be an issue. But again, search and rescue efforts continuing, drone, boats, whatever they can do to find whoever's missing, they're going to do their best. And I'll have more updates from you here in Kerrville.
All right, Rania, before we let you go, we know that they had intended on getting the helicopters taken back to the air at 8 o'clock this morning. We had some low cloud cover up there, some rain as well. It prevented them from taking off in the 8 o'clock hour. They said they were going to wait for the clouds to lift. Do you know, now we hear that one obviously behind you. Did enough helicopters get off the ground today to do some effective search?
So the main helicopter I've seen throughout all this morning and this afternoon has been that Texas Department of Public Safety helicopter. And that's the main one that I've seen that's been doing the search along the Guadalupe River. I haven't been able to get any specifics on how many air helicopters or air searches are happening at this time. I do know they're using drones. I know there was also some concerns about them being able to use boats, just because now that the Guadalupe River has crested to the point where they can actually wade through the water. We're not even sure if they're able to do that, but they did tell me whatever asset they could use, they're going to. And just a reminder, where I'm standing right now is how high the Guadalupe River was yesterday. I mean, as you can see in the distance, it's crested quite a bit. And that, of course, is the challenge when you're trying to put boats out there to try to search for people, because now the water is so low, they are not necessarily been able to do that even. So again, whatever they can do, they're going to try their best too. Barry?
All right. Thank you, Rania. One thing for certain, that Department of Public Safety helicopter, you could hear it buzzing around. The question now is it doing searches, or we saw Governor Abbott in that press briefing room just a little bit ago. Senator John Cornyn was there. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is there as well. We're waiting for a press briefing. If we can take that shot, that split shot, so we'll know when they're coming into the room. They had taken the photographers back to another room, and quite frankly, it appeared that room was just plainly going to be too small to hold that press conference in there with Governor Abbott and Cornyn and Noem and everybody else. The county judge, I'm sorry, not the county judge, but the county sheriff has told us earlier this morning they'd pulled off somewhere around 850 rescues already. Again, 27 deaths, 18 of those are adults, 9 of those are children. We have at least 27 children missing from Camp Mystic. That's a child's camp up there. One of 34 kids' summer camps that are in the Kerrville area alone. A lot of those centered in that area where that heavy rain fell in the Guadalupe River running through there. It's part of the lure of going to those camps. They did take off with the search at 8 o'clock this morning, but they had to take off on foot. They couldn't get the helicopters launched because of the air cover and all. As we said, we're waiting for them. They had initially said that this press conference was going to be at 2 o'clock this afternoon. It was then pushed back to 2:30. Now here we are at 2:46. We still don't have any officials in the room. We heard from Kerr County Sheriff Larry Latha this morning, as well as Kerrville City Mayor Joe Herring. Mayor Herring obviously has been very upset by this. This is a current shot, or is this this is a live shot? So obviously some helicopters have been able to take off. This is the photographer. We were just speaking with Rania just a few minutes ago. This is the helicopter that we heard buzzing around as we were doing that live shot now. How many others? Yesterday, I know we saw Texas National Guard helicopters, some Black Hawk helicopters, saw Coast Guard helicopters. We saw this DPS chopper. Texas Parks and Wildlife had at least 2 helicopters out there searching. We have search teams from all over the state, and truth be known, we probably have some from outside of the state, but some as far away as Conroe, which is just north of north of Houston. So we don't know who all is out there searching, but we know there are efforts on the ground now to try to get to, hopefully, prayerfully, some survivors of this flooding. We don't know yet. We haven't been able to get any information. They're being very tight-lipped, and I understand that too. They don't want to give anyone a false sense of hope that people are being recovered, but there's certainly not as much helicopter activity as there was yesterday. And the city of Kerrville, their emergency management team, has established a reunification intake line for parents of campers who are still missing, anyone that you have a loved one or someone you know was along the river, and there were an untold number of people that were there hoping to celebrate the 4th of July when this flood came along. The number at the top there for the reunification intake hotline, 830-258-1111. That number was just established very early this morning. And then yesterday, they told us, law enforcement, both the county and the Kerrville PD told us, please do not call 911. That number obviously was just being inundated with the number of calls. This is the Kerrville Police Department's non-emergency line. If you're wanting to check on someone, if you're wanting to report somebody missing, the number at the bottom of your screen there, 830-257-8181, is the number to call. Again, to check on someone, to report somebody missing, to report some concern. Also, there are a number of area shelters that have been set up. There are at least 4 now set up there are so many people that have been displaced, and they have no place to go there, so they're hoping to take care of them as well. Are we any closer? Well, we're going to go to Ryan now. Ryan, what's happening now with this rain that obviously we're watching now? The flooding over in Comal County along River Road and all of that, that really has nothing to do with the storm and the flooding from yesterday. That's not reached through Canyon Lake. They've not opened the gates. They're not releasing water. This is because of the rain that's happening due north of there.
Yeah, Canyon Lake has the ability to absorb a lot of the rain out west. You know how low it's been recently.
48%.
Yeah, so it's really the heavy rain, the torrential rainfall that's fallen in Burnett County, farther northwest of Austin, all that flowing down south, crossing over I-35. That's where it's becoming a problem above and below the canal, which will show you the current levels and the flood stages coming up in a little bit. But first, here are current conditions. Radar a little laggy right now, but this is showing the big picture. A lot of this is thinning out. It's mostly light to moderate rain in the region. But what's been a concern, at least these last 5 to 6 hours, is the low deck of clouds, the low visibility, this constant drizzle that does lower the visibility at times for helicopters and first responders, rescue crews to continue to do their job in a safe fashion. But yeah, it's this low deck of clouds that just causes visibility to be reduced quite a bit. So this is current conditions across the area. We'll take a closer look at radar, but I do want to start off with this right here. Here are the 48-hour rain totals since yesterday morning. Remember, a big chunk of this fell Friday morning from about 1:30 a.m. to about 2 in the afternoon. Then we saw a break by about 3 and 4 o'clock. But here, and you can contrast between the San Antonio Metro and the Hill Country. For example, Helotes, 0.86 inches of rain in the airport. I think about a half an inch right now from what I see on the data from the National Weather Service. But that may fluctuate a little bit with the incoming drizzle and light rain that's fallen in the last 1 to 2 hours. Alamo Ranch, 0.58 inches of rain. Same thing over at Schertz. Similar numbers across west and northeast San Antonio. Stone Oak seeing about 1 1/4 inch of rain. Medina Lake 0.82. This is where the numbers really climb exponentially. I mean, Kerrville over the last 48 hours, 4.78 inches of rain. Ingram 6.62. And then when we talked about this yesterday in the last 12 to 24 hours, that gradient of accumulated rainfall just goes up so significantly from Kerrville to Ingram to Hunt. And you can see 11.68 inches is the official rain total from one of the observation sites in Hunt, Texas. Comfort, 5.71. Bandera, 5.64. And Canyon Lake so far, as of 2:30 this afternoon, 2.23 inches of rain. Okay, flash flood watch originally was in effect until 7 p.m. tonight. It has been extended for the potential at more passing showers, especially in this green shaded area for all these counties. So Atascosa County, Bexar County, parts of the Hill Country, and especially up I-35 towards Austin, Burnett County, and out towards Gonzales. Or by the way, which we'll show you in a second, this region right here between I-35, the Comal, Seguin, they've seen a huge chunk of rainfall fall in the last 6 hours. It's been abundant, and that's where the focal point has been in the area. All right, here's radar. So we've talked about this. There is an additional impulse of rain moving farther south, west of I-35. And notice that most of this rain that's forming around the San Antonio Metro, the Hill Country, it's very light to moderate. We had a couple areas of strong bursts of convection and thunderstorm activity, but those have since really fizzled out in north and northeast Bexar County. So basically from 281 towards Garden Ridge, I-35. That's where we saw a pretty good amount of heavy rain, but didn't last very long. That's the good news. Yes, these are, long-standing passing showers, but they're not sitting over the same area for a long amount of time. So that's the good news. But we're watching this very closely, which is why I think the Weather Service has extended that flash flood watch until 10 p.m. is because of some of that additional activity that's forming farther north near Blanco County. So there's Marble Falls, there's Dripping Springs. We're seeing an additional refiring of thunderstorms. Right now, nothing severe associated with them, but they are localized heavy downpours. And if that continues to move farther south towards Bulverde, for example, southeast of Fredericksburg, this should move due south. I think Kerrville may see a couple of passing showers, but we're watching some of that redevelopment, some of those thunder showers firing up on that western side just west of Marble Falls. That may move farther southwest. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. But notice, let's actually turn the clock down to right now. So it's 2:56 p.m. on your Saturday. Mostly light to moderate rain out near Hollywood Park, Timblewood Park. And most of this is just light activity. There are a couple of more moderate embedded downpours over near Helotes, near Braun Road, for example. Maybe just east of Calabria Road. There's Hollywood Park and Timberwood Park right there. South and southeast, not too impressive, but Lavernia down to Pleasanton, parts of 281, and then western portions of Atascosa County, seeing a little bit of rain out there. And these are all current and active flood advisories for Comal and Guadalupe County until tomorrow morning, early Sunday. And this particular one is for the Guadalupe River. These additional ones are for counties that have received pretty good rainfall since midnight and this morning. Matter of fact, here's that bullseye spot near Burnett County, northwest of Austin. Radar estimating like 17 to 18 inches of rain in this particular part since midnight tonight, this morning. And then towards the east and southeast, that's where it really lights up. 24 to 48 hour rain totals again towards Kerr County is where it's been really a big concern. Here are the current river levels, currently at 2.5 at Hunt, Kerrville at 3.1, so these are falling pretty good. That's improvements. Now our focus does shift towards the Comal. 10.7 above the Comal, that's cresting right now. That number may fluctuate, but the red color represents moderate flooding that's currently happening. And then below the Comal, while it's a bigger number, this portion of the river, it's only at minor flooding. The flood stage is at 13 feet. It's currently at 13.5, according to the National Weather Service. But both these parts of the Comal are cresting and experiencing between minor to moderate floods. And the National Weather Service, based on the forecast, right now it's cresting, so I think in the next coming hours, it'll slowly improve on these current river levels. So we're going to keep a close eye on this because this is the main concern as areas between I-35, Seguin, radar estimating between about 5 to 10 inches in this part. So the flash flooding threat has shifted farther east, and the Comal is a spot where they're receiving a lot of rain and an influx of tropical rain and moisture. So again, we're going to keep a close eye on the rivers, especially out in the Comal Berry.
Reiterate too, Ryan, that the rise that you're seeing there in the Comal and that area, Seguin, that whole area, this has nothing to do with the flooding that went on in Ingram, Hunt, Kerrville, in that area. That water that was flowing down the Guadalupe just got to Canyon Lake about 1 o'clock this afternoon. To give some kind of perspective about how much water Canyon Lake's able to hold itself at full pool, I think it's somewhere, I don't know, somewhere around 350,000 acre feet.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for Canyon Lake to absorb the water that's flowing upstream and going downstream.
Exactly, and it's only 48 point something, less than 49% full. So that water was moving at 175,000 cubic feet per second. It takes 44,000 cubic feet to make up an acre foot of water.
Yes.
Canyon Lake is huge. It's going to be able to absorb a lot of this water. So don't worry about them opening the gates and the water flowing down from there. This flooding there is due strictly to what that rain was falling up around Burnett and north of that area.
Yeah, there have been pockets farther north of Canyon Lake and some even near Seguin and along I-35 that have received like 5 to 10 inches of rain. And it's because of those localized areas and that funneling in to the Comal, that's where it's becoming a problem. This is not associated with what happens across the hill country. Just wanted to clarify that.
But it is something we do certainly need to keep an eye on. The rain's going to continue to fall, for a while. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, going back to Kerrville, we're waiting on a press conference in Kerrville now. This was supposed to have started at 2 o'clock this afternoon. It has been delayed. It was 2:30. We're now at about a minute and a half till 3 o'clock. We know Governor Abbott is there. I'm sorry, Molly? Oh, all right. We know that Senator Cornyn is there. Governor Abbott is there. Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem is there. The county officials, state officials are going to bring us up to date. What's going on in there, where the search efforts stand now. We don't know how many people are missing, but we do know there are 27 girls again missing from Mystic Camp. We're going to go back out to Zach Briggs real quick and check in with him. He's in that area, Zach, where you're seeing a little bit of that flooding there over the road behind you.
Absolutely, Barry. This is Blighters Creek, behind me, the road's blocked off. Again, we're off of Loop 337 and River Road. And I'd say about 5-10 minutes ago, we saw a number of vehicles coming from River Road, evacuees, an RV, numerous pickups. And then we just saw a number of fire department personnel, state resources with high water rescue boats head into River Road. And according to some online sources, Roy's Rentals, it's one of the many businesses in the area, they're currently evacuating dozens of campers. And another note, at least 20 people were able to make it to higher ground in this camp vicinity. And they're waiting to be rescued, hence why they have the boats in the area now. But we did speak with a number of individuals that made it out when law enforcement came by their campsites hours ago. There's a Shell gas station just nearby, and they told me how fast-moving these waters were along the Guadalupe. These folks coming from visiting from Houston, and they were looking forward to having a good time, but their plans obviously change, so they're now at a hotel waiting it out until they get the green light. They're monitoring social media, watching news coverage of the situation here in Comal County. But yes, we're looking at between 4 to 6 inches of rain in this area. Again, River Road, we have numerous campsites farther deep in the area. We are unable to get into that site because obviously the roads are blocked off. The safety of everyone is paramount at this point. But as you can see, along this particular stretch, Blighters Creek, not rushing waters, it's not as aggressive as before, but we do know there are a number of evacuations still taking place, and it's expected to take place for the next couple hours or so. No word on when the road will open back up to the public.
Sent you out there 11:30, 12 o'clock today. We had heard there were some evacuations. They're evacuating these RV parks, these lower places along the river. These aren't people being evacuated from their homes, are they?
There might be some residential areas. We have a number, we can't see right now, but you have a number of people behind the camera waiting and to get back to perhaps their campsites, their businesses, or even homes. But there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions. People have been coming up to this sheriff's deputy vehicle asking questions, but this particular deputy is unable to provide clear answers at this point. It's a waiting game. The priority remains to get people that are still stranded miles in, get them out. Again, some people are able to get out on their own. As I said, RVs hauling out, pickups, but some people have been a bit more cautious, deciding to turn around once they see this situation with the part of River Road taken over by Blighters Creek, a flooded Blighters Creek by that. But again, a lot of folks are gathered at the Shell station wondering what's going on. They've been monitoring social media. We know the Comal County Sheriff's Office and the city of New Braunfels, they've been trying to keep folks up to date on the situation here in Comal County. But as you can see, people are anxious to get back, whether it's to enjoy their original plans for camping or to get back to their businesses. But certainly a vibe of frustration for sure.
Were you able to get down to River Road this morning, Zach, at all? Were you able to get there? No, not at all. We were unable to. It was blocked like this. But I got to say, you see the rushing waters of Blighters Creek. It wasn't as extreme as it was compared to maybe even an hour ago. We were able to get past briefly with the permission of this deputy here to get a closer look at the rushing waters. But some vehicles were able to get past, others were not. But we were told to move back behind the road closed sign. So no, while search and rescue, they're moving in. Folks, evacuees, they're coming out. So. All right. Thank you, Zach. We'll check back in with you in a minute. I want to go back up to Kerrville. Rania Corr has been up in Kerrville for the last 2 days. And Rania, I know we saw just I don't know, perhaps 10, 15 minutes ago, we could hear that chopper circling around you, and then we saw the chopper literally over that area where those people appeared to be searching across the river from you. What's going on now?
I mean, since then, I've seen 2 more helicopters just sweeping this area of the Guadalupe River. I'm right off of Junction Highway, just to give you an idea of where I am exactly in Kerrville. And I just want to tell you how low they're searching. I saw a helicopter just maybe a minute or so ago basically touching the treetops here because whoever was driving the helicopter wanted to lean over and look through the brush, the shrubbery, the debris to see if there are any survivors, because the biggest thing that's happening here in Kerrville, all the way from Hunt, Ingram, Kerrville, all throughout the Guadalupe River in this area, is search and rescue efforts. Just this desperate search for anybody who is missing, anybody who survived the Guadalupe River flooding yesterday. I know that, again, earlier this morning, there wasn't as much air activity. In fact, the cloud cover was much lower, so there were concerns that even if copters were able to go up in the air, are they going to be able to see? But you know, one thing we've heard from local officials is they're not going to leave a single stone overturned to look for the people who are missing. And I mean, there's not just choppers in the air, there's also drones. We know that there are boats if they can get boats there. We know people are driving 4-wheelers. We know whatever they're able to do, even if it is traveling by foot, they're going to do here in Kerrville and Hunt. And again, a separate team is looking for the 27 missing girls from Camp Mystic. That is still a huge, huge priority. And one thing that I'd like to say about that whole situation is Kerrville Police Department told me the reason they're able to give an exact count on the missing campers is because there was a head count. But the reason they're not able to say how many people they're actually searching for missing is because there is no head count. They don't know how many people came in from out of town this 4th of July that may not be reported missing yet. And so literally they're looking for whoever they can see. I hear another chopper in the distance. I know Texas Department of Public Safety's chopper is up in the air. It's hard for me to tell which other choppers are in the air right now, just because there's also so many agencies out here assisting. This morning, of course, I was at the City West Church, and I mean, I saw Blanco, I saw Fredericksburg, I saw Conroe, I saw Fayetteville, Lake County. There are so many agencies in this area trying to help find and complete the search and rescue mission. Now, one thing that Kerrville Police Department asked me to relay is if you're seeing those rescue efforts, to please get out of their way, because that way they have room to search and do what they need to do. They're also asking people to not deploy themselves because they're saying they have enough resources from the state, and of course from other local agencies that have come here and are supporting these search and rescue efforts. They say when they need volunteers, they're going to make sure they'll announce it so that people can come help and assist, because they know that, of course, the Hill Country community is so small and everybody just wants to help. Barry?
Rania, I'm going to guess you are a little north of Kerrville, the downtown area, and all. You're at the from the width of the water there behind you. You're at what they call the Kerrville Lake area.
Yes, I'm right off of Junction Highway near the lake area. So yeah, a little north of downtown. I haven't been able to get down to downtown since yesterday. I have been to Louise Hayes Park. I have seen the Guadalupe River in multiple different points along Kerrville, but yeah, where I'm standing is off of Junction Highway here, which is near the lake.
So the search,
Barry?
From what you've seen, the helicopters, the directions you're traveling, is the search still primarily north of Kerrville then? I know they were going to start up toward Hunt and work their way down, obviously follow the water.
Yeah, I've heard that the primary search location is southwest of Hunt, all the way down to Center Point. It's earlier this morning in the press conference, they said that's about a 17-meter stretch that they were walking through, that they've deployed crews to. Again, I know one special team is in that Camp Mystic Exact, that area, just to look for those missing campers. But yeah, this is kind of that area, Kerrville, Ingram, Hunt, literally wherever they can find people, they're going to try, is what I'm learning from law enforcement today.
And Rodney, you had mentioned too that one of the big problems here, the reason they cannot give any kind of number, we have no way of knowing how many people are missing, because every year, and really any weekend during the summer, warm periods of time, there are people come from all over the state with RVs, campers, even tent camping is the one young lady that was swept down the river. We don't know how many people were lined up along the river, so there is no way to give an accurate head count on how many people are missing.
That's exactly right, Barry. I mean, 4th of July is celebrated at Louise Hayes Park, and that's where yesterday a body was found. So many people come into town every single year in Hill Country, to the Hill Country, to celebrate the 4th. I know along one of the bridges downtown, I believe it's the G Street Bridge, people were telling me there are vacation rentals there that usually get filled up this time of year. Well, a lot of people, they imagine, are going to be reported later, but they're not sure how many people really came in from out of town, who's missing, who's here, where they came from. They're just trying to identify and just find people, I believe, at this point.
Well, and Rhonda, you were up in, you were on the G Street area, I think, yesterday. We had gotten reports that there was water in homes, in businesses along Waterfront Street, G Street and all. Did you see damage there?
I have seen a little bit of damage. Mostly I'm just seeing debris that's just piled up along the river. I know that at one point law enforcement officials today were telling me that officials were wading through water that was chest deep. Now, I'm much shorter than many of the law enforcement officials. I'm 5 feet, but the water was so high that it came up to their waist, it came up to their chest, it came up to their hips, and they were doing whatever they could, again, to continue those search and rescue efforts. And of course, if the water is chest deep for them, for homes that are not high enough, that means water was in those homes. So definitely we can say there is some damage to some homes along the Guadalupe River. To what extent at this point, I know we're still trying to figure that out.
All right, Rania, thank you so much. We appreciate you being there. I want to remind everybody too, the city of Kerrville, their emergency management department has established this reunification intake lines, telephone line, for parents of any campers who are still missing, anyone who may have a relative or someone they know that was along the Guadalupe River, if they want to call to check on them or if they want to call to report somebody hasn't been heard from, somebody is missing, call that top number that's on your line there, the reunification intake line, 830-258-1111. Everybody else, call that bottom number, 830-257-8181. Want to go now to This Is in Kerrville as well. Again, we're going to have a press conference, bring us the latest information on the flooding, and hopefully we'll get some idea of where they are in the search for the 27 little girls that are missing from Camp Mystic. We know Governor Abbott is there, Senator John Cornyn is there, Homeland Department Secretary Kristi Noem is there as well. We heard Chip Roy saying earlier he had already spoken to President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary and was talking to them about possibly getting some federal aid to come into the Kerrville area to help in this recovery effort, to help maybe fund this search effort. There is Governor Abbott making his way to the microphone now, so he's followed in by the rest of the crowd. Let's go ahead and listen to them and hopefully get some update on some numbers.
Well, thank everybody for gathering with us here today, and we are especially pleased to have with us today Secretary Kristi Noem from the Department of Homeland Security, who will share with you a lot of information herself. Before I do pass the mic to her, there are several things that I want to announce as well as some things to share. First, What I have observed in this community over the past 24 hours is what I call quintessential Texas. When Texans face a challenge, we come together, we unite. And that's exactly what's happened over the past 24 to 48 hours in this community. Nothing more than extraordinary devastation. And the worst thing that could have happened in this community fell upon it. They could have fallen apart. They could have fought against each other. But instead, they understand the importance of unity. And it's what Texans do. It's what we will continue to do. Along those lines, something else to double down on what I said last night. We will be relentless in going after and ensuring that we locate every single person who's been a victim of this flooding event. We're not going to stop today or tomorrow. We will stop when the job is completed. Between now and whenever that day arrives when the job is completed, this is a 24/7 operation, day and night, because we know that we are looking for Texans and Americans, and we put them as our top priority, and we will find every one of them. Additionally, I want to let you know that overnight, there was an increase in storm damage and rainfall and flooding in other regions of the state of Texas that were in addition to the ones that were in the disaster declaration that I made yesterday. What I'm going to sign today is an expanded disaster declaration that adds the following counties to what I signed yesterday. This disaster declaration includes Kerr County, Burnett, Caldwell, Guadalupe, Travis, and Williamson counties. We will continue to add counties as needed, as conditions either worsen or improve in counties across the state of Texas. We will ensure that every asset and resource the state has is going to be made available to every county that's the subject of this disaster declaration. Also, I've had the opportunity to visit not just with Secretary Noem, but other officials in the Trump administration. We know that President Trump, he loves Texas for one. He's deeply concerned about all the families who've been affected, but also knows about the magnitude of the devastation that we're suffering. And so what I'm about to sign now is going to be the first step in a process. This document is a request for a federal disaster declaration coming from the governor to seek the immediate and ongoing help of the federal government. I want to express my gratitude in advance to President Trump for his entire administration for their devotion to the state of Texas. He always tells me about his love for the people of the state of Texas, his deep concern for them, and I know that he's feeling that now as much as he ever has. And there's no better way to show that than the fact that he wanted to ensure that he and his entire administration was represented here today by Secretary Kristi Noem, to whom I would like to turn things over at this time.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I want to thank Governor Abbott for his leadership, and know that President Trump is absolutely heartbroken by what has happened here in Texas, and the loss of life is absolutely devastating to him and Melania. This morning I talked with him several times, and he wanted to make sure that all of you know how much he loves Texas, how much he's grieving for your families that have lost someone, and the beautiful children that we're still looking for and hoping to return to their families, and that he is absolutely committed to using all the resources of the federal government to help unify families, rescue all those that were still missing, and return those who maybe we will recover back to their families as soon as possible, and that we will be here walking alongside each other and helping throughout this entire crisis. And know that I'm extremely grateful as well for the leadership of Noem Kidd, who's a fantastic emergency operations manager and has been well known throughout this country for leading through such a time as this. And this tragic situation is something that is unprecedented. We recognize that at the federal level. We also recognize that when something like this happens to a community, happens to a state, that the best responders are those locally, because it's your family members, it's your community members that are being impacted, and you can respond quickly. And the role of the state is to run and manage that emergency, but the federal government needs to be here for the support and extra resources on the ground as well. And that is what we are doing and what President Trump has dedicated to continue to do. I've visited with the president already about this federal disaster declaration that the governor was going to sign here this morning, and he has indicated that he will honor that and that he will accept that. So that response and that relief will be coming. And we also have had assets here on the ground since the beginning of this crisis started, since this weather event did start. And even before it came, we were alerted. We did have Coast Guard assets here that were helping to rescue people. We're thankful for the airframe that showed up and those coasties that were here walking alongside our DPS, and the emergency responders that were here, the Texas assets that were deployed already, and that coordination was seamless, and I appreciate them for putting that request in right away. We also had our BORTAC team from Customs and Border Protection out here helping with rescues. They are a specialized, trained force to come in these types of situations and bring their skill set to bear. That is a resource that's incredibly important to the Department of Homeland Security, but also in these types of situations when we need emergency management response. We also did have a CBP advisory interdiction specialist here that was helping with some coordination of air assets that has been present. And then we are looking at the other entities that are under the department, what can be utilized, and of course FEMA is standing at an enhanced level right now, which means that they are plugged in to the State Operations Center. We are engaged, and then as this response goes forward, that their role will continue to be filled as it always is in these situations, and will be timely and responsive as to what the governor requests and what is needed here on the ground. I do know that the state of Texas is amazing in how it responds to disasters. Not every state is like that. Many states do not do what the people of Texas do. And you are an example to the nation of getting through these difficult times, but also know that you're not alone, that you have the entire country's hearts and are with you and are walking alongside you. And at the department, we will continue to bring more resources. We just, at the request of a previous conversation less than an hour ago, in visiting with Noem and with the governor, requested more fixed-wing aircraft from Coast Guard to come and help us, making sure that we're going out and locating individuals as fast as possible that we know are still missing, and that we also will send more airframe as far as helicopters that have the ability to come in, and some will be equipped, and the fixed wings with thermals so they can continue to work all night long. Some of the assets that other agencies may offer don't have that kind of equipment, but the Coast Guard does have it, and so that will be deployed so that the search and rescue efforts don't stop even when it does get dark at night. We'll continue to stay engaged, and I'll be here. I'm going to go up to the camp, Mystic, and I'm going to go around town and spend some time here today, and make sure that when I am calling and talking to the president throughout the day, that he has timely information, and that the requests that are coming here from the leadership on the ground are met immediately, and that we can take care of these families and take care of these folks right away. We do know the number one priority now is people, is making sure we're finding people as fast as possible, and we're returning them to their families. And then also, throughout the process, we'll get into what damage was done to public infrastructure, what may have been done to, I know we have 1,800 people that are still without power. What I understand is people still have water, but we do have damage to bridges and to roads. Thankfully, dams held. But all of that is an assessment that we'll continue to work with you on to make sure that you recover as quickly as possible. So, again, thank you all for being strong and being an example for people. Someone told me a long time ago, over 30 years ago, that to never get angry on behalf of yourself, get angry on behalf of the other people, to always go out and get up every day and go work for other people and help them. And so I know many of you that are out there responding and helping your neighbors had losses too. You're hurting because you're grieving somebody that may have been lost. We were created to serve people. God created us to serve each other, and now is a wonderful time to go find somebody you can help, somebody that you can take care of and get them through this process, and that will make us stronger and better into the future. So our prayers are with you. President Trump wants you to know that he and Melania are praying for you and love you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the governor.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the assets and resources you and the Trump administration are providing. One thing that Secretary Noem mentioned was the fact that recoveries and rescues are being made, and what has happened over the past 36 hours is really amazing. When you look at what the local officials have done, working in collaboration with multiple state agencies as well as our federal partners, in 36 hours, they have rescued or recovered more than 850 people, some clinging to trees to save their lives, others in other precarious situations. It's just sheer heroism, the way that we've seen our first responders rescue so many people. And now I would like to turn things over to Senator John Cornyn.
My thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem for responding so quickly to Governor Abbott's request for a federal disaster declaration, and particularly, Madam Secretary, thank you for being here in person. It's really important, and I think sends a very important message. Unfortunately, I've been to a number of disasters over the years across the state of Texas, as has the governor, and none of these get any easier. But I have to tell you, I remain incredibly impressed with Governor Abbott's leadership and the incredible work that the Texas Department of Emergency Management, under the leadership of Noem do. They are literally the best in the nation. And what Secretary Noem said about other states not responding as well is true. It's something we should be very proud of and grateful for, particularly at a time like this. And then there are the men and women who are standing behind us here, who have been doing the work on the ground, not waiting for the federal government to show up. They've been getting the work done, as the governor pointed out. And we are all together, we are praying for those who have lost loved ones and are grieving. We are celebrating with those who have been reacquainted with and rejoined with their family members. And, you know, a few years ago, the governor will remember this, up in West Texas after a terrible disaster, a county commissioner there said something to me that I think is appropriate at a time like this. He said, being from Texas is not just about where you're from, it's who your family is. And so when things like this happen, we come together as a family, as Texans, in a way that I'm very proud of, but it's very important because this is who our family is, and we owe it to them. And I take the governor at his word that he and his team will be relentless in supporting all of the efforts at the local and the federal level until every last person is accounted for and those families are reunited with their loved ones. But Governor, thank you again for your leadership. Secretary Noem, it means a lot to us for you to be here. And we appreciate Governor Abbott and Chief Kidd, but we appreciate President Trump and you responding so quickly to the governor's request for disaster declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now Congressman Chip Roy.
Thank you, Governor. Thanks all of you for being here. You know, before I was crazy enough to run for Congress, my family and I started a tradition of coming down to Kerrville for 4th of July. And we've been coming here every summer since my kids were little. They're now 14 and 15 to see Robert Earl and whoever else was playing. And pictures have been popping up my phone, the ones that, you know, kick on the anniversary of different shows, like a bunch of different shows over the last decade. It hits home It really does. It hits personally for those of us for whom this is our community, our home. My family lives in Hayes County, but we spend a lot of time in Kerr. And I can't say enough about the local leadership and what they've been doing in the face of this disaster. Your city manager has done an extraordinary job. Your sheriff has done an extraordinary job. I could go down the list of everybody and I'll leave somebody out. But I can't say enough about what they've done, and then I can't say enough about the governor and about Noem and about the leadership that has come from the state and from DPS and from TDEM to get this done and to do what we're in the process of still doing to react to this unfortunate circumstance. It's been professional and it's been extremely well done. And I have to say, the secretary yesterday, I reached out to her office. I think it might be 15 minutes later that I got a call from the secretary, immediately responding to requests. I talked to Noem about the need for Army Corps support and some other stuff, immediately talked to the secretary about it. The collaboration, the teamwork, local, state, and federal, I cannot overstate the extent to which everybody set aside turfs or any of those kinds of things to deliver for the people of Texas. Now, we're far from having finished the job. We're all here knowing that we still have work to do. We're still prayerful. We're still hopeful. Obviously, there's a lot here that we're dealing with, but I'm deeply appreciative for that coordination. And the last point that I'll just make is, and I've said this a little bit earlier this morning, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing and a lot of second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking. And I just want to pick up on what I think the governor said about 50-something individuals that were moved quickly in this circumstance, and in a once-in-a-century flood where you get 12, 14 inches, where you get a 26 to 30-foot increase in water in the course of an hour and a half at 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning on a holiday. And that's what we're dealing with in these circumstances and where those camps are. There's a lot of people saying why and how, and I understand that. And I understand why parents would be asking those questions and all of the media. But where we are right now in terms of what we've done to be able to protect people, move them, get them out of the camps, and the heroic efforts of people that worked in those camps, directors of the camps, people who own the camps, who not just risked their lives, gave their lives to try to go save the lives of those kids. That's who they are as Texans. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud of the work that everyone's done to do that. And now we just got to finish the job and be with the people. And importantly, pray for the families who have lost their loved ones.
Thank you. Now, Kerr County Judge Kelly.
Yes, I think I'm the only one at this table that lives on the Guadalupe River. And our properties were devastated, and I barely got home yesterday. I started my morning ushering in a crew with a skid steer and 2 dump trailers, 3 trucks, 9 men to start trying to rebuild what went down the river. I then had the opportunity to come here, where I was asked to go over to the funeral home. I had issues over there. I am a 50-year lawyer and a mediator and arbitrator, and we had some issues that needed attention. And I got to see firsthand many of the body bags, and it breaks my heart. And coming back from that, we had an opportunity to go on a helicopter ride with the senator and the mayor and inspect the devastation. We flew all the way up the South Fork, all the way to Criders. And you can see what's happened, and it's going to be a long time before we're ever going to be able to clean it up, much less rebuild it. But there's nothing on the other side of Criders. It's just hill country. And we didn't know. We know we get rains. We know the river rises. But nobody saw this coming. And what I really have to report to you is it was a godsend to be able to get out of the helicopter, walk back into this building, and sit down with these people and cooperate, arm in arm, hand in hand, to do the best we can to work the process. The rescue has gone as well as can be expected. It's getting time now for the recovery, and that's going to be a long, toilsome task for us. And what I would reiterate that I've heard others say is as long as we stay together, we'll get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Mayor Herring.
I want to start off by saying thank you on behalf of the city of Kerrville and our 25,000 citizens. I want to say thank you to the federal government, the state government, county government. You know, as I look around the room in the Emergency Operations Center, I don't see different agencies from the state, the federal, the county. I see one team working together. It's important for our community to know it's one team. We will rescue those in peril, and we will find those who are lost. I continue to ask everyone who sees this today to pray for Kerrville and Kerr County. We need your prayers. And thank God we have the help of the federal government and the state government in this horrible, horrible crisis. Thank God for our country, and thank God for all the help we are receiving today. Thank you.
Now, TDM Chief Nemkid.
Thank you, Governor. My heart breaks. It's broken for those families that have lost their loved ones, and that fuels our drive to continue to search for them, and we will not stop until we find every one of them. I have to start by thanking our local first responders. Those men and women on the streets live here, they work here, their families are here, yet they got on the truck and they got in the car and they got in the ambulance and they went out and they did everything they could to save their neighbors. You also have volunteers all over this county that do the job for free, that were out there working to save lives, many times putting their own lives and their property at risk. Our state partners have been phenomenal, nothing short. Madam Secretary, your federal team has been nothing short of remarkable and impressive. I'm grateful for that. Every time I've reached out to you or your staff or Acting Administrator Richardson or the Acting Regional Administrator, I don't think the phone has rung twice before you've answered. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here with us. Life safety continues to be our #1 priority. We will continue the search until all those that are missing are found. We will start cleanup and property damage assessments as soon as possible. Our teams from FEMA have been in the State Emergency Operations Center since before we started operating on this event. They are exactly where we need them to be, doing exactly what we need them to be doing. Our Border Patrol partners have been here, and I'm so grateful for the U.S. Coast Guard. Acting Administrator Richardson and Regional Administrator Stoller have been great partners to us. We continue to work forward. And if I may, I'd just like to run across a few more of the numbers. 1,331 state additional personnel that have been added to this response on top of all your local responders. Over 906 state assets here. That's 125 from our agency, 172 from the Urban Search and Rescue Team at Texas Task Force 1, over 160 from the Department of Public Safety, over 250 from the Texas Department of Transportation, 170 from the Texas Wildlife Department, Military Department 136, and the A&M Forest Service here with 115, and almost 190 people on the health and medical side. Governor, our team stands ready to assist this community.
Thank you very much. One last thing, and that is, there is a word that's been the most common word that's been spoken over the past 36 hours, and that is the word prayer. It's been repeated by the people who are watching this as we speak right now. It's repeated often on social media, through phone calls, through texts, and those prayers are answered in so many ways. Answered by that child who was being swept down the river and happened to find a tree to cling on and was able to continue with uncommon strength to be able to remain clinging to that tree until a helicopter was able to descend upon her and lift her out of that harrowing situation. It could have been the reason why water stopped rising into a home or a cabin or something that would have caused an entire building to float away. It could be the reason why there have been so many people have been located wherever they were down the river basin. It could be something that prevented somebody from getting into the water to begin with. All we know is that prayer does work. Your prayers have made a difference. We ask for continued prayers as we continue our efforts to locate everybody who's been affected by this, and pray so much for the families who have lost a loved one, who are going through challenging times that they never imagined on the 3rd of July that something like this would happen. Prayer matters, and we thank God Almighty. God has blessed Texas and will continue to bless our great state. We'll take a few questions.
Have the numbers changed? 27 dead and 27 missing from Camp Mystic.
Sure.
What I can tell you is there's still 27 missing. We have recovered some additional bodies at this time we're trying to identify at this time. What I can tell you, an update, there's 32 deceased. 18 of those are adults and 14 are children. 5 of the adults remain unidentified and 3 children remain unidentified. We are still working on that this time. As I said earlier this morning, the numbers are going to continue to change. They're going to continue to change till we're done. It's been a very good day as far as being out there and being able to do some things, and we've got a lot done.
Chief, early on there was a lot of conflicting information about the search, about the number of fatalities, the missing, even a lot of families and parents were rightfully concerned and more importantly confused about all this information. We just heard the judge refer to this as a shift from rescue to recovery. Can you clarify what that means? Are we talking about these missing people no longer believed to be alive?
You'll need the judge to answer that piece. Our state assets and local partners are continuing to search for live victims.
Is there any indication that there are still people out there alive? Any evidence?
History would tell us that after a certain time period, those chances diminish, and we can talk about all of the numbers and the metrics on that. Our hope and prayer is that there are still people alive that are out there, and we are still actively searching for them, and we will continue. And listen, that will turn into recovery at some point, and none of us want to put a time period on that right now. But when you talk to the men and women that are up there in those helicopters and out in those boats and walking the ground, they're looking for live people right now and doing everything they can to continue this search as fast as possible.
And Judge, just a moment to clarify, because we want to be very clear with especially families and parents that are watching this. What makes you feel like this has gone from rescue to potential recovery? Because there is a difference.
We will eventually get to the recovery.
2 more questions.
Well, we're going to do more than 2 more questions. I want to say this. My instruction to every state agency involved in this is to assume everybody who is missing is alive, and there's a need for speed. Not just every hour, every minute counts, which is why there's people in the air, people in the water, people on the ground right now, because they're looking to save every last life, and we will not give up that effort.
2 more questions.
Why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7 o'clock this day of 4th of July? And either federal people can answer that maybe for us. I got updates at 7 o'clock, first one I heard. And I've heard updates throughout the week, but not before 7 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't that a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe?
Well, you know, my background is, before I was in the secretary position here under the Trump administration, I was governor of South Dakota and served in Congress for 8 years before I was governor. And so I will tell you that for decades, for years, everybody knows that the weather is extremely difficult to predict, but also that the National Weather Service over the years at times has done well, and at times we have all wanted more time and more warning and more alerts and more notification. That is something, and one of the reasons that when President Trump took office, that he said he wanted to fix, and is currently upgrading the technology, and the National Weather Service has indicated that with that and NOAA that we needed to renew this ancient system that has been left in place with the federal government for many, many years, and that is the reforms that are ongoing there. The timeline that I have, I don't oversee the National Weather Service, that's not under my department, but the timeline that I did receive from them was that the notifications started to look at its expansion for its limited flood impacts area that started on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m. The flood watch was issued. Although it was moderate, it wasn't to the extremes that it was, that when the system came over the area that it stalled It was much more water, much like I think we experienced during Harvey. The same type of system that was unpredictable in the way that it reacted and the way that it stopped right here and dumped unprecedented amounts of rain that caused a flooding event like this. They continue to elevate and up their notifications. You know, when your notification hit your phone, sir, I'm sorry, I can't speak to when that is, but I do carry your concerns back to the federal government and to President Trump, and we will do all we can to fix those kinds of things that may have felt like a failure to you and to your community members. But we know that everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long to make sure that families have as much advanced notice as possible. But
One more question, folks.
Can you please get into the search efforts and where that's happening and what the challenges are?
Question was search efforts.
Where it's happening, challenges, what it's looking like.
Yeah, the entire river is being searched from the northernmost impact all the way as we run down. You have assets in the air that are still doing searches, you have boats that are in the water doing searches, and you have ground crews doing searches. As the water recedes, new areas being uncovered and searched, and you have human and canine that are working those banks and will continue. It's a grid situation where we've got maps in there in the EOC where you can see what group is assigned to what area and reporting back to command if they find or if they continue to clear. And that process is going to keep going. We are not stopping until we find everyone that's missing.
Great, thank you, everyone. That's all we got time for.
Go ahead.
As far as the resources people who are trying to recover, we have FEMA, we have the state. What can people depend on from the federal government and the state government in this time of need? There's a lot of that.
well, as in every emergency situation, the local emergency responders put together what the request is through the state, and the state coordinates all of the response and what assets may be necessary and makes a request to us. So now that the governor has already requested this federal disaster declaration, they will start to tell us what the needs are, and the federal government will do all that we can to support.
Ma'am, will there be direct assistance?
Well, there already has been direct assistance. I mean, when you look at having Coast Guard assets here on the ground, we just requested more assets to be here, Border Patrol here. If there's more individuals and federal law enforcement officers, if we need, any assets that I may have under my purview, I've made available to Noem, and so he knows that if he needs something, it'll be here.
Great, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
It is Governor Abbott wrapping up a press conference in Kerrville about the flooding there, flanked by Senator John Cornyn to his left, to his right, Department of Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem, then Texas Director of Emergency Services Nim Kidd. If you may or may not know, Nim Kidd is one of our own. He was the head of the Kerr County Emergency Services Department, then tapped by then Governor Rick Perry to come and head the Texas Department of Emergency Services. Also Chip Roy, and then the mayor of Kerrville and Kerr County judge there. The governor did ask for, he signed a disaster declaration, expanding the one he had signed yesterday, expanding it to Bexar, Guadalupe, Burnett, Caldwell, Williamson counties. Mr. Abbott stressing the point to the President Trump how much he loves the state of Texas, loves being here. There is federal help on the way. At the end of this press conference, of course, is what a lot of us were waiting to hear, some kind of numbers to determine how many people they have recovered so far. They confirmed there are now 32 dead from the flooding, 18 adults. There are 14 children. 5 of those adults have not been identified. 3 children still have not been identified. They said there are still 27 children missing from Camp Mystic. It is a search that is going to take a long time. FEMA, he said, is standing, Kristi Noem did, Secretary Noem, saying that FEMA is standing at an enhanced level right now. They're bringing in more federal assets. She said as many federal assets as we need. President Trump is going to go along with this, that he is backing Governor Abbott's request in this as well. She said the president and the first lady are heartbroken, and I don't know anyone who isn't heartbroken by what's happening. Nim Kidd saying that it doesn't matter how long it takes. We're going to stay out there. His teams are going to stay out there and find every person that they know of that is missing. We're now 36, 37 hours into this thing. More help is on the way. It is just going to be a very long process. This is not going to go away. And you could see the governor just getting a little irritated by one of the questions, more or less pointing a finger at the state of the federal government for not warning about this flood. It was just an act of God. The amount of rain that fell in this area, there was no way. Secretary Noem saying there was no way to know, for anyone to know, that it was going to stall the way it did, comparing it to Hurricane Harvey when it stalled over Houston and dumped tons of rain there as well. That is it for now. We're going to go back to our regularly scheduled programming, but we certainly will have more on the news tonight. We will continue to cover this story tonight, tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, however long it takes. We will be here to bring you as much information as it comes into us.
To say I'm fired up about this one, guys, that would be the understatement of the century.
Kurt Warner is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's class of 2017.
Going into season 4 as captain of your Sens, Brady Tkachuk. Welcome to Locked On Senders.
One of the most famous Chargers of all time. We have Sean Lights Out Merriman on the show.
NBA champion Joe Mazzulla.
Diana Taurasi, the all-time leading scorer in WNBA history.
Defensive end for the Houston Texans, Will Anderson. None other than Clinton Portis is our guest today.
Catching up with Jalen Milroe. Governor Healy. It's PFT commenter.
World Series champion Josh Reddick.
Texas offensive lineman Kelvin Banks.
Where do the Miami Dolphins and their 2025 roster rank amongst their peers in the NFL? We're going to get into that here today on Locked On Dolphins.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, and NFL staff writer for A to Z Sports. Want to give a special welcome and shout out to our everydayers because it is your team every day. We don't just say it, we live it here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Mentioned in the lead in today, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast alongside Joe Marino, formerly of the Draft Dudes podcast. Formerly before that was Locked On NFL Scouting. So we've worn a lot of different hats on that show, but this is now year number 4 of us doing a content series that I'm going to take the results from and talk about them in depth for the Dolphins here today on the show. And each summer, you take 8 weeks. There's 8 divisions in the NFL, 4 teams. So Monday through Thursday for the last 8 weeks, Joe Marino and I have looked at every single roster across the NFL. And we've put every player into buckets like roster cornerstones, quality starters, sufficient level starters, replacement level starters, quality depth players, incomplete evaluations, players you don't really know which one of those buckets they fit in, rookies, and non-roster caliber players and practice squad caliber players. And we look at about the top 80 players on each roster. The objective being we want to identify the best that every roster has at their disposal from a player perspective, a talent perspective. How well has your team allocated talent, and what resources from a skill perspective do they have at their disposal going into the year ahead? We put it into roster power rankings, and each one of those buckets has a numerical value that's associated with it. And then each one of those positions is weighted accordingly for how the league covets those positions to show a quarterback, and grading well there is more important than a right guard, as an example. Or maybe for the Dolphins, using right guard's a bad example based off of what's last season